Yeah, we're live.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're live again for the last time. Welcome everybody to the closing session. أهلا وسهلا فيكم. I cannot believe how quickly these last 2 days have gone, and how many incredible discussions we've managed to have in that time. So for those of you who may not know me, my name is Sara Husseini. I am a proud Jerusalemite and the chair of the advisory board to Build Palestine. We're going to use this last session partly to reflect a little bit and also look forward to what happens next at the start of these conversations we've been having this last 2 days. But before we get to that, I'm going to hand over to Mays, who is the community coordinator for Build Palestine. She's one of the team who have been tirelessly working behind the scenes in what we call the war room, not only for the past 2 days, but for months and weeks before this. And Mace, I'm going to hand over to you to also introduce our very special guest, Dajani.
Of course. Thank you, Sara. Let me just say how honored we have to have Dajani here with us tonight or today, wherever you are. We'll be sharing 2 spoken word pieces entitled Love Letters from Palestine and I Choose to Be Palestinian. Welcome, Dana.
Hello. يعطيكم العافية. I'm really excited to be here and tuning in all day, in and out of a few different sessions, from VR to mental health to yoga and breathing to music and resistance. It's been so rich. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you and welcome. So before I give you the floor, I'd like to ask you, within the theme of the summit, which has been all about community, what does being Palestinian mean to you, and how can we build a community when we're all around the world as Palestinians?
I think it's important that our community building be centered around our culture, because our culture is the remnants of it's what's passed down to us from our ancestors, and it comes from their time in the land. So when we sing our songs, لما بنطبخ وبناكل أكلاتنا, when we dance our dance, لما بنلبس تطريز, when we listen to music, all of this, it ties us into the sense memory, the sensation. It keeps the memory of Palestine alive in us, in our hearts. And I think it's really important then to connect over these sensations, these ancestral sensations, right? This feeling of home and belonging and togetherness, we cultivate that in mass. And so before it was, maybe a bit easier to have vigils and rallies and think tanks and concerts and plays, but at this moment, we can't. And so building like this and taking this network online and leveraging all of the human capital centered around culture, I think is definitely the way forward. And my hat's off to everyone on the team and everyone who participated. I'm really so proud of it.
Thank you so much, Dana. And that was really lovely what you just said. I will now leave you with the mic to introduce the pieces you are sharing with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you. For the first poem I'd like to share is called Love Letters from Palestine, and I won't introduce it too much beyond the fact that it's a mix of spoken word and theater. So I wanted to tell the story of Palestine through the character of a Hajj who had far more insight than I did through my own personal experiences. And then if you want to ask me any questions about the piece, or if anyone would like to ask questions about the piece, feel free and I'll answer them. But to do that, I'm going to do a quick costume change, because if you've seen this before, you know the Hajj is in character. I'm going to take off my headphones and Hajj b'shway. But there's a new twist because my fro's got to fit. So she's got a twist.
I love this. And I think it's a great idea if anybody has questions about the piece to put them in the chat. We'll see if we can. We'll definitely find time it's okay. I just said I think it's a great idea to put questions in the chat. So if people have questions for you, then we'll collect them and see if we can ask you a few afterwards.
Perfect. Okay. They call me Nakba, named for the catastrophe born on the same day as I, Welcome 72 years fighting the threat of genocide has left me unspooled, like the thread I use to embroider pillows and thobes with passion and the hope that one day I will again feel at home on this land that my grandfather tilled with his hands under the umbrage of a gold-leaf dome. And all I've inherited is internal displacement, like my gut in my throat when I hear of olive trees older than you and me by centuries, uprooted like so many families, relinquished to refugee camps where there is no defense. Though in the West Bank, we live restrained by a fence, thick enough to drown out the sounds of our sorrows and muffle the marching beat of endless feet martyred in neat piles which the media sweeps so slyly under the rug of humanity. The insanity of your alleged birthright. Israelis minting fresh citizens, you import entitlement and market it as democracy. And though your apartheid apathy acknowledges 1 million of my friends as second-class citizens among you, millions still are caught in between, unaccounted for in your governmental scheme. And that doesn't include the millions still who can only dream of one day reclaiming their ancestry. Frozen in the struggle to remain Palestinian and present, to retain the essence of الزعتر والزيتون, اللوز والليمون. In the spirit of those lost, the Arab Spring thaws the sting of aching jaws, letting cries of freedom ring through bullet-battered walls. But the numbers dead here still spiral, like some stupefying defect. 1 missing, 2 lost, 3 buried, 5, 8, 11, 13. Welcome, we've grown accustomed to this pattern of killing. But when does the sequence end? Tell me, Israel, through which ethical lens does your ethnic cleansing make sense? The irony is a bit too much for me to tolerate. While your IDF soldiers are toasting l'chaim, Palestinian children are dying. Our sons and daughters, prisoners of war, living on salt and water, and I don't mean tears alone. So tell me how, ya Dani Ayalon, can you deny that Palestine ever existed? How can you say with a straight face that before 48, there was nothing here but the potential for a Jewish state? Before they fed us their hate, welcome, we ate like kings in the Fertile Crescent. Doctors, lawyers, and musicians, our land was golden, the most bountiful and open. You've defiled our stunning cities and our pristine history. And yet, I'll grant you amnesty. You orphan-making orphans, because you have never known the sanctuary of a home, and it's no wonder you want this land for your own. Our mountains and coastline, lush green and stone, which still stands to rebel against your bombshells, are a sight to remind you that your might does not negate our right to life. And I must admit, I was jealous when they sent love letters to Iran. It made me wonder, what did I ever do to treat you wrong? It made me wonder, what possesses a throng of Americans to suit up and serve to protect another homeland which they don't deserve? With only weapons in the water, only bullets in the bread, I was knocked out from rage with stars of David round my head. Last time I yelled, hey, Ariel Pharaoh, will you let my people go? Because this land is holy and was so before your uranium blast. And at the end of the day, we both shared the same Semitic past. But in the 1950s, your discriminatory policies helped you confiscate our land, classifying us as absentees. Though we never left sight of home, it was only out of reach as we stood helpless, caught in your checkpoints, present absentees, and watched as Jewish families commandeered Palestinian homes, with food still cooking, hot on the stove, beds made and bills paid, and pets waiting on the floor, sniffing out the stranger who just walked in the door. We never abandoned our Palestine, And now, as refugees, we carry her spirit internationally. And Israel, we refute your dumbing down of this occupation to call it a dispute, though it's not just a semantic issue. So I will continue to resist amidst your tanks and settlements, separating, segregating in your racist strategy. Walak Netanyahu, who chose you to inflict so much suffering unto me? Israel, I dream of peace, which is no substitute for justice. Israel with your barbed wire hugs, and Israel with your uranium love, and Israel with your bulletproof apathy, Israel with your affinity for make-believe. Israel, I am waiting for your liberating compassion, for you to discover your love of Palestinian Bedouins and Bashas, for this love cannot be contained, which is why love doesn't die when bodies don't remain, which is why love is all that's left. Though my heart has hardened like the stone pit of an olive, don't you see, Israel? The only way I know to give you my very best is to rip open my vest, reach into my chest, dislodge this now calcified organ, kiss my fist, and with a wish send it flying over the wall towards your settlements which haven't settled anything at all, and hope you receive its good intent. You see, I don't resent you. We'd never move past this if I did. My life is over. I just want a better future for my kids. This rock was never meant for anything more than to knock some sense into you. Why continue war? We are one human race. There are no walls from space. And if you could just see my face, the daughter of a catastrophe, perhaps it may inspire in you some humanity. Israel, all I do is give you time. But until you get in line, I will keep throwing these love letters from Palestine.
Wow, Dana, if there was a clapping feature on this platform, I'm sure everyone would be clapping and snapping their hands off. That was beautiful and haunting, and I'm sure everyone here felt that to their very core. So thank you so much for that beautiful performance. Before we move on to your next piece, I would like to ask you the thing we've been asking all of our attendees and speakers, moderators, facilitators, everyone. What is your radical vision for Palestine? How do you radically imagine Palestine?
Maybe before I answer this question, I just want to say something that I mentioned to Sara a bit earlier, is that it gets harder to do this poem year on year, because when I wrote her in 2012, she was 65 years old. So it starts, her age is right at the beginning. And every year she gets older and older. Yeah, and our struggle persists, our efforts persist. And so I wonder, how radical are we thinking? You know, how radical do we want to stretch our imagination? Because I see around me all of this, you know, movement towards economic normalization with Israel. And so when you ask me about radical imagination, I think about beyond normalization towards true reconciliation, which is delivered through justice. And this has to encompass healing the hurts and righting the wrongs and a right of return and reparations before we can start to rebuild. But once we do, I think that these are the rights that can really lead us into renaissance for the whole region, not just and starting and seeded in Palestine. For my radical imagination is that we will continue to raise our voices to be heard, to demand humanity and recognition and justice as delivered through instruments of justice that have been tried and tested, you know. Reparations, right of return, equal representations for Palestinians in Palestine.
Perfectly said. I could not have put that in better words, Dana. I'd like to leave you the mic to present your next piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I wanted to preface this and give you, because you had mentioned a bit of interest in how the background of some of the pieces. So this poem came about when I was working on a project, and I was wondering, it was a project بالأردن, and I was wondering, are they going to refer to me as a Jordanian actress or a Palestinian actress? Because أنا فلسطينية بس جوازي أردني. So I was wondering, how would they refer to me? And I found myself having a crisis about this, about how would I insist to be represented كفلسطينية? What do I have to say? No, هوية ما عندي, you know? So this is the background of this poem. I choose to be Palestinian. I choose, I can, because my identity is my own to create. It's no one's business to affirm, bestow, or prescribe upon me. No need to defend my identity because it comes from within. I choose to be Palestinian. It's not a box to check, a club to join, or lifestyle demographic. Trust me, I choose to be Palestinian, and it has nothing to do with my ancestry. I choose to be Palestinian because I believe in dignity, in justice and humanity, in perseverance, in resilience. Say it, Palestinian. I believe that David beat Goliath. I believe that all beings are Messiah, that every land is holy, that all people are chosen. No burning bush had to tell me, though I do write while I'm smoking. I choose to be Palestinian. And I believe that we are not broken beyond repair, even after living through our holocausts, the depth of our despair. In Nakba, in Neksa, Sabra Shatila. من الضفة لغزة أنا فلسطينية. I choose to be Palestinian, even though they don't play fair. They don't play. They don't. They. I choose to be Palestinian. I choose. With or without a nationality, I can, because my identity is my own to create. So I choose not to be the victim, and I resist the fate you perpetuate. I choose to be Palestinian and step into a new way, where the graves of Jerusalem aren't dug up as prime real estate to witness the horns of Judgment Day. Tourists flock in mass, religious holiday, a photo to take, unholy vacation. While tourists are shepherded through checkpoints and barriers. We could have heaven on earth if we'd stop waiting for a savior. So let it start in Palestine. Is the name triggering? Very well. Call it something else then. Won't change the fact that I choose to be Palestinian. I choose to be Palestinian and give a voice to this pain and this love and this hope and this willingness to change and a desire to grow. I choose to let go and find a common meeting place. We already inhabit it. Say it. We are Palestinians. Thank you so much for having me. يعطيكم العافية, guys.
Thank you so much, Dana, for joining us. That was so beautiful.
It's incredible, Dana. Thank you. And when you get off this onto the main stage, you'll see all of the comments that have been coming up, and people are just, yeah.
Sorry for the disturbance from Risha, but she was in attendance with us. Thank you so much. I'll catch you on the other side.
Thank
Bye,
you, Dana.
Bye, bye.
Mace, I was not prepared for this.
Me neither,
well, I knew obviously Dana was amazing, but to have to follow her now is wow. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just been an absolutely mind-blowing couple of days, and I think having Dana there to sort of sum that up in a way is incredible. It seems like a really long time since we started planning this summit, and there have been so many big changes in the world. We're all sitting here in the midst of a global pandemic, which has starkly highlighted the systemic inequalities all around the world. But at the same time, it's also re-energizing struggles for justice and freedom in many, many places. And as you know, with the summit, as you all know, sitting there, we had to move from an in-person gathering to a virtual online gathering. But actually what we've realized is it's given us the opportunity to really include so many more Palestinians from inside Palestine across our community, from outside of the diaspora, friends. And so there's something about it that really feels like this has come at the right moment. And I don't know, I'm sure you feel the same way.
I do.
And I think as well, this feeling's only really been confirmed by the frank and challenging conversations we've had for the last 2 days, the energy of the speakers, the videos of the change makers, the exhibition booths, all of you who have been attending, sharing questions and your own suggestions and radical imaginations. The energy in the chat, I was going back through the chat for the last 2 days, the energy on every panel has been incredible, and people getting involved and engaged online. And I think it just speaks to the fact that this has really resonated, this theme, this topic, all of these conversations are really resonating with people. And I think that's really cool. So I think just before we talk about the next steps and how to make the most of this moment and this energy that I feel like we've created all together, we need to talk a little bit about the team, right? And the organization that's behind all of this, that's convened the summit. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit about Build Palestine now and Build Palestine's work, how it's been contributing to social innovation on the ground, building community, and yeah, the kind of impact that you've had over the last few years.
Of course. Thank you, Sara. And to be honest, the past 4 years have been truly extraordinary for Build Palestine. Mind you, I've only been here for 2, but I feel like I've been here for the entire journey. And I feel like I've known every story and every person along the way. I feel like I know Ibtisam and the community center and Al-Jahalin, Shirabi and Sumbula organization, even though I've never been able to cross the checkpoint to Jerusalem and meet them or see the organization. I know Majd in Gaza, where my family is from and where I haven't been since I technically cannot remember. And I know Ala and every child at Rasil Association in Ramallah. I know over 35 stories thanks to Build Palestine, 35 projects for which we were able to raise over $360,000 from over 4,000 individual donors. And these came from across 56 countries. We were also able to provide the support, the services, and the resources for social innovators and entrepreneurs here in Palestine, and are proud to have been able to bring together over 1,000 people together for tens of events and workshops over the past 4 years. And as Bisan said at the beginning of the summit, Build Palestine was launched by a group of young Palestinians who believed that by mobilizing the community, we could bring the future we all wanted to see. We could build that future. And we believe that by bringing all of these people together, anything was possible, and that our biggest strength as Palestinians lies in our people. And for me personally, Build Palestine at the end of the day is about all of these stories. Stories of sumud or resilience of our people and of inspiration. So here's to Build, here's to everyone we've worked with, and here's to the future we hope for Palestine. Now, if you'd like to be part of this journey, I would tell you to consider joining Build Palestine's global membership network and join other Palestinians and allies from all over the world who are working towards the Palestine we want to see.
That's awesome, Mays. It's really, really well said. And yeah, thinking back, it's been so cool to be part of this journey with you all. So I've been with the team since around 2017 when we kind of first set up a more formal kind of advisory board. And I just want to take a moment here to thank you all as a team, to give a few special shout outs, because the amount of work that you've all done, Bisan, who's sitting in Washington, DC right now with a newborn baby, little Miss Mira, you and Lama Mays, who have been in the war room in the background in Ramallah, Mahran and Darar, who are co-founders, of course, of Build Palestine and were part of the initial people dreaming this initiative up. And then just one special shout out to Daoud Ghannam, who you will have all seen potentially popping in and out of the chat. If you're a speaker, you'll have seen him maybe on the backstage. He's the founder of UMake, which is a co-working office in Ramallah that works for Palestine, works there as well. And Dawood's not only supported the technology behind all of this and made this virtual gathering all possible, but he was the one really that had the vision, right, for how to bring this to a virtual platform and how to make this gathering as engaging as possible using technology. And so we really, owe him a massive, massive thank you and debt of gratitude. I hope we'll share at the end. There's a few photos of what's been happening in the background over the 2 days. So I hope we'll share them on the website at some point so everyone can kind of be in on that as well. I know, Mace, you're going to do a few more thank yous in a moment, but I'm just going to sneak in one more, and that is to my fellow board members, who happen to be a bunch of absolutely kick-ass women who have donated so much of their precious little spare time. They're all incredibly busy. I don't know how they've managed it, but over the past months, they've done everything to support panels, putting panels together, moderating panels, bringing speakers, and so just a massive shout out to them. So now the question is, how do we go forward from here? It's the big question, right? Firstly, in terms of the sort of practical steps, we're going to be making all the sessions available to watch on the summit page of the website. That's right, Mace. And we're going to email people when that's up so that everyone can see. We're also going to put up all of the I Imagines we've been collecting. So people who have been the panelists and speakers on social media, in the chats. There have been some incredible, incredible imaginations. And so we're going to put them all in one place so that we can go back and be inspired by them, right, on this kind of long road ahead. And then secondly, we're going to work to develop points of action from the summit. With those who have participated and attended, those of you who are keen to continue to be involved. We hope this is going to be something that we can develop together and really end in some real tangible actions, for a better future for Palestine. And again, we'll share details of how you can stay involved on that piece as well. And then finally, I think Mace mentioned it already, but I think one really great way to stay connected, especially for those of us who are currently outside of Palestine, is by joining the Global Membership Network. One thing we know is that ultimately we need to do this for ourselves. And I think a lot of us feel the same way, that we really want to be much more connected to the homeland, but we don't always know how to do that. It's quite hard when you're physically and geographically separated. So with the Global Membership Network, for as little as $5 a month to become a member, you can support Build's work, all the brilliant work Build's doing, all the amazing change makers that you've seen the videos of between the panels, or you've seen on panels and throughout the summit. You can volunteer your own personal expertise, but also be provided with a platform to stay connected to our homeland and to one another. So we have a space really to come together. As we discussed right at the start in our opening panel, radical imagination is really a collective process, and one that will take time, energy, and hard work. But I personally, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, Mace, I truly believe that if we can commit to this process today, then we can really reimagine and build a Palestine that fulfills all of our aspirations. So on that, in the Global Membership Network, you can find more information in a link that's been put in the chat. Or if you want to go to just Build Palestine's homepage at any time, you'll see a red button that says Become a Member, and you can find out more about the Global Membership Network through that as well. I'm about to wrap up and pass over to you, Mace. But just before I do, the one thing I realised that I had been asking everybody to do and haven't done myself is my I imagine sentence. So my sentence is, I imagine a Palestine that just by its very existence raises the bar for all of humanity. Shukran lakum. Back to you, Mace, to wrap up.
Wow, Sara, that was really beautiful. Thank you for that. And we've really highlighted the importance of building a thriving community for social innovation and impact in Palestine the past 2 days. And I think that this weekend and this summit have been a true testament to that. We're beyond thankful to all of our attendees, our speakers, our facilitators, our board members, our volunteers, and to all of our outreach partners, to PIPD and IMEU, and Conrad Adenauer Stifting, and of course, Dawood Ghannam and the entire UMake team. Thank you all a million. We hope that you can take these past 2 days and turn them into something meaningful for Palestine, to continue this process, as you said, Sara, of imagination for our home, and take these steps towards making that imagination a reality. I will end by saying my I imagine statement, which is, I imagine a Palestine that is a home where every individual can be who they want to be, and do whatever they want to do with freedom, with every sense that that word holds, freedom. May the Palestine we all imagine manifest on the ground. So that's a wrap for the 2020 Social Innovation Summit. Once more, thank you all for being here. We cannot thank you enough, and we're more than proud of everything that has happened over the past 2 days. I will now end this and leave you with a performance by Shadi Zaqtan, a Palestinian singer and songwriter who dedicates or created this performance for the summit. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone. Are we ending with a little technicality?
It looks like it.
I love it.
It wouldn't be a virtual summit.
You have to start and end every virtual summit with some technicality, some technological issue. They're just making you wait on purpose, Mace, before you can go and relax and rest.